at Forever Media. And I'm coming to you today, disrupting your day. I missed you just after lunch because it's 1 o'clock, but we had to make everything come together. But it's going to be perfect because we're talking about something that is so important, so impactful for you that I can't wait to share it with you. Now, our guests are going to be joining us in a second. We've got Candace and we've got Lori, and they're both here with a very special cause. Now, one of the coolest things when Candace mentioned this to me, I said, we absolutely need to do this for you. You absolutely need to be on a LinkedIn Live because you are leading the movement. Hey, before we met you, before you became a person that was going to be on the show, you were leading the movement. So let's bring Candace on just for a sec so she can talk with us as well. Welcome, Candace. What's
Hi
going
there,
on?
Randy. Thank you for doing this for me today. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Hi,
Of
everybody.
course. Of course. No, this is great. And we'll give it just a minute or two. I know people have got to join on, but I hate all the countdowns because then when I watch it later, I've got to wait for a minute. I'm like, no, no, no. Get into it serious. And then we can get into more and better things as we progress. But again, I just wanted to say that before we even had you as a speaker for Lead the Movement, before you jumped on and wanted to be a sponsor with your podcast, it was like, this is a person who is already leading the movement in her own way with something that's near and dear to your heart that you're passionate about, which is, I think, what a lot of people need to remember is that you probably have something that you could either join up with because it's perfect, it just resonates with your spirit, or you could start your own thing. And so I want to talk about that with you in a sec. But let's check now. Tell me, is Lori ready yet? Is she ready to get in on this?
I believe she'll be ready. She
She
said she
will
was
be ready.
connected. She's
Well,
on.
before we get her on, we can
Okay.
focus on just a few things going on with you, just about kind of a little bit of the end can and just a little bit of how you got in. Talk about, I mean, the other thing that's kind of fun is that I know you better than you know me, which is kind of cool because I read your whole book and I was blown away with what you had experienced. And I know that that'll lead into the conversation today, but just
Yeah.
totally floored with your story and how you carry yourself now and what you went through. And so I know that that led to a lot of what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah. So, yeah, let me just kind of share with our LinkedIn family out there. So, Candace Sanchez, I wrote a book called Unspoken.
I'm going to
It's
go run and get my
available.
copy.
It's available on Amazon, but you can also purchase it on my website, on my swag store, and get a signed copy by me that supports me either way. And if you do purchase a copy of my book titled Unspoken, please write a review. As a new author, it's always helpful to have reviews by the readers that kind of gives me credibility, validity of my book and my story. And it's titled Unspoken because I wasn't supposed to tell, right? It's a one word statement. I am a sexual child abuse survivor. I was abused by two family members between the ages of 5 and 15. So my story became my brand, my business, and that's how I'm leading the movement because 1 in 4 girls, 1 in 6 boys will be sexually assaulted, experience some sort of abuse by the time they're 18. And that statistic is real. And it's if they report. I never reported. I never spoke my truth until I was older in my adult years when I started sharing my story. And then I was 47 when I started writing, and I published right before my 50th birthday. So my book is new. I published right during the pandemic, November of 2020, when I had some downtime, private time, quiet time. We were all stuck in our houses, and I was finishing writing the book, and it launched in November of 2020. During those 3 years of writing my book, I formed my podcast. And my podcast is a safe place where anybody who's had trauma can be heard. So then the podcast is called Unspoken Conversations with Candace, your host here, me. And so that's how I'm leading the movement. And I was so honored to be a part of the movement that Jamar has and Randy, everything that you guys are doing, leading the movement and bringing change forward. That's the only way change can happen is having your stories told and not being afraid, because as survivors, we stand stronger when we stand together. And now getting into something at a national level. So I was fortunate enough to find the organization EndCan, the National Foundation of ENDCAN.org. And I matched up with Lori Poland, who's the CEO and co-founder of this national foundation. And we are here to bring a walk to raise awareness here in Milwaukee and Oak Creek, Wisconsin. So I need all the LinkedIn family and friends out there to either come to the walk, donate to this cause. It's a great cause. Lori is leading the movement on a national level. We have 5 walks in 5 cities. So we're going to talk about that. And I can't wait for Lori to come on and share her story as well.
Absolutely. You nailed everything. Now we can just get off the live. I don't know what we're gonna do. No, you know what? I wanted to get into with you, and maybe we'll wait a little bit for Lori to join on, but just the whole idea that people shouldn't feel like they're silenced. They shouldn't feel like they can't talk about things. We want to empower people. And again, if you're not ready, you need to join someone else's movement, just like what you're doing there. Maybe there's somebody who can just say, I'm going to support in this way. Maybe I don't have time, but I've got more money and I want to fund it because I believe in the cause, because I believe in what you're doing. Going out for a walk, showing support with other people, having those crucial and critical conversations with people so that they get to hear what it's like to be a survivor, and then maybe they don't feel quite as alone or odd. I mean, shoot, you put out the stat of 1 in 4, 1 in 6. It's way too many. It's way too many, and it doesn't get talked about enough. So just having something like NCAN that can touch people and help and make a difference is so important.
Yeah. And this morning, so Lori has been traveling, she's so dedicated to the mission and the work that she's doing. And she's been visiting all the cities, which is why she's here in person today with me in the city of Milwaukee. We actually went to Oak Creek. We went to Lake Vista Park. Again, I'll hold up the flyer. That's where it's happening. Lake Vista
Oak
Park,
Creek?
which is Oak Creek, Wisconsin. And we were dropping off flyers and big poster boards. And the venue is amazing. I have a DJ secured. We're going to have, hopefully we can get the guardians of the children there to do tattoos and to do face painting for the children, but it's going to be fun and energetic. And while I know the child abuse topic is kind of taboo, unspoken, again, it's an uncomfortable, difficult conversation to have, but again, we want to celebrate the strength for child abuse survivors. And we want to make sure that we're bringing communities together to create that change, cultural change. And then all the proceeds go towards all of the NCAN's national child abuse prevention. Prevention is key, advocacy, education, and research. So it's just amazing. So, yeah. So I think Lori's going to come here on my camera because her
Boom! 2
technology
for
isn't
1.
working. So 2 for 1. So I'm going to pause. So I'm going to let Lori come in.
We'll go back to this regularly scheduled break with Randy Valinsky while
I'll be
they
right
get it
back
all
with
taken
Lori
care of.
Poland. Yes.
So we are so blessed and so thankful to have someone like Candace who's so passionate and so driven, being a part of the movement. She's going to be speaking on our tech panel. She's going to be contributing because not only did she deal with this and have this past, which most people would just see and go, oh my goodness, how did you overcome that? To then going to having tremendous success in the IT world, an area that she carved out and created and just kept leaning into and kept taking steps forward and has had a ton of success. So we want to bring out that focus on that experience, but also as much as we can bring in the human experience, what she's dealt with and the things that she can leverage to that and tell us about that. We're very excited to have it. So let's see if I bring them back on. Will they be here together? Oh my goodness. Boom. We've got them. I got Lori. There she is. Hey, where did Candace go? Candace just evacuated.
Yeah, she's like right here, but we're together. What's interesting is we've got 3 different computers trying to connect, and I think only one is allowed at a time. So we're just going to roll with it and make it happen. This is like the world of trying to figure out technology. And we're just a bunch
Candace
of feelers. Yeah.
Candace, get to work.
Right? Candace,
get to work on it.
He said.
I am working, boss.
No, you know what? Jump in. You guys can
jump in.
You can cuddle up next to each other. That's fine. Because both of you, I think, have a very cool and unique perspective. I've known Candace just for a little bit. I know her even better because I got to read all about her whole past in her book. And Lori, I got to read a little bit about you, but a lot of that is new. So Candace has given a great intro, but we'd love to hear it in your words, just a little bit about NCAN and your story. I got to read a little bit about, which I think people would be shocked. I mean, I think everyone would be shocked to like it's the worst nightmare of any parent to what you went through. It's basically what you see in the movies that scared people into doing things and being very like it's organized sports. You ain't going outside, but like it is what scared it. But I'd love to turn it over to you. Tell us whatever you want. But your story is so powerful. If you would please share that, I'd love it. Oh no. Now is your camera is working? I don't hear your voice anymore, Lori. What happened? We always need some good technical difficulties. Hey, we put this together last minute because I heard Lori was coming in and we wanted to share the story. So you always have these little things, and that's okay. It's no big deal because we want this story to be out there. And so we're gonna deal with that and we're gonna bring that to people because they need to know. They need to know. And just as a little preview while Lori fixes her audio, is that being abducted at the age of 3 by a stranger is the fear that everybody has. That's the fear when you're raising a kid of most abductions, and she could talk about this. This is what my understanding is. They usually happen by family members. They're usually a thing where there's not necessarily a ill intent involved, but that one's right out of like Silence of the Lambs, scary stuff. Did we get you back, Lori? Is your mic working? No, I still don't hear you. Where did it go? I'm gonna have to read lips or something. It was so working. If you do, we're troubleshooting on the fly for those of you who want to run a live stream. If you go to the little gear, usually there's an audio output, and you just want to make sure you select one or the other. It's weird that it would have defaulted or changed. That's strange. I blame Candace. I blame the IT person. She has done something. But as they work that through, let's talk a little bit more about leading the movement because when we get this going, we've got 2 more people that are leading a movement in the area of their passion. You could be a person leading the movement. And if you can't lead the movement, you can at least join somebody leading. You can at least follow a good cause or a good group of people and be a part of it. That's what everybody should be doing, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not going to be about how successful you were in business. It's going to be about how many lives you were able to impact. That's what people need to be thinking about. So that's why it's perfect for our LinkedIn family, but we also have people here on Facebook. We've got people here on YouTube. So all of those people are going to get to see this and learn about this powerful message about what NCAN's doing. And specifically, mark down your calendars for September 17th. September 17th. It's in Oak Creek, which is a suburb of Milwaukee. So it's in the Milwaukee city area. And that is an area you want to go to and bring a team or walk with somebody else or show your support in any way for NCAN. There's a lot of ways to get involved, and I'm sure we'll get to talking about that as soon as technical support. Oh, you're going to leave and come back. All right. That's okay. We can make it the Randy show for a minute. The Randy show. I'm back. I'm back, everybody. It's been this for a minute. So let me talk about Lead the Movement. We are so excited, even though this wasn't primarily going to be all about our conference that's going on August 25th. So you come to our August 25th event, you learn how to lead the movement, then you show up at NCAN and really show that you learned what it means. And what's going to be most cool about the event is that when you take a picture of you walking, when you take a picture next to their social media area, when you post the hashtags, that's what's called using branded entertainment. When you use branded entertainment, that is a way like what we're doing right here, where we're talking about things and we're getting people involved and they know about it. That's so powerful for getting the word out. It's more powerful than a billboard. It's more powerful than a bus sign. All right, let's see if we can get them back in.
All right. Do you
Boom
have
shakalaka.
Boom shakalaka. IT. See, it helps to be an IT by day and then everything on your day off.
Have you rebooted? Have you rebooted? That's my favorite.
We didn't reboot. We just went out and came back.
That would solve everything.
When in doubt, turn it off.
That's right. Just shut the lid, pop the lid back open.
Yeah.
All right.
Start again.
It's been the Randy show. I want it to be the Lori show because your story is crazy impactful. It's crazy, and people need to hear it and then kind of how it evolved into this. I'm going to give you the floor. Lay it on us.
Thanks so much, Randy. So, hey there, I'm Lori Poland. It is just an honor to be here. I'm so sorry. I am not a tech person in any way. I'm a therapist by education, and that is my jam. So I can do feelings all day long. I'll just go ahead and give a background of who I am and where I've been, and really how my life has led to this point. And that is when I was a 3-year-old little girl and I was playing in my front yard, and a stranger just drove up in his orange Datsun with the passenger door open and asked if I liked candy. And like any sugar loving 3-year-old, I eagerly said yes and hopped in the car, and off we went. He took me up to the mountains in Colorado, and after abusing me, he put me in the bottom of an outhouse toilet 15 feet below ground and just left me for dead. And 4 days later, I was found by bird watchers, and they looked down and asked what I was doing there. And I told them that I lived there. And I was rescued a couple hours later after they found somebody small enough to come down and get me. And I was reunited with my family. And for me, the journey of healing has just been an ever growing, ongoing, lifelong thing. Every change in my life, every direction in my life, every time I've had a child or had something major shift within my world, I've had to kind of readdress or reattend to that early childhood trauma. And so I started as a motivational speaker at about the age of 15. And I just did small groups, usually with like Kiwanis or Rotary or something like that. And then as I became an adult, I started speaking in front of larger and larger audiences. And I got trained as a therapist. And I have been working individually with children and families and couples for the last, 12 years. And 4 years ago, my treating doctor from my abduction, his name is Dr. Richard Krugman, he asked if I'd be interested in helping him essentially make the equivalent of like Susan B. Komen or American Heart Association or American Cancer Society, but specifically for the topic of child abuse and neglect. And there we focus on enhancing research, advancing prevention efforts, creating an advocacy movement, and really ultimately community and united voice for survivors and people impacted by child abuse. And then also really helping to improve education and training for parents, for children, for survivors, for spouses of survivors, for community members, and ultimately really for our children and the future of our world. So we started that 4 years ago, and here we are. We've met amazing friends like Candace, and it just continues to grow. Every day I meet somebody new, and we have more and more people joining this effort, and it has just been truly humbling and very much of an honor to be a part of all of it. So, and today is one of them, and I launched my book. It's called I Live Here. Here it is. I launched it on July 11th, just 7/11/22 of this year. So it's out and ready. It's a memoir and also speaks a lot about the healing process and the long-term impacts of child abuse and how that kind of ripples into family and community and really ultimately like that whole lifespan. So there you have it, Randy. That's the gist.
And can I just say that she dropped her book on my birthday? Like, so how is this not divine design?
Seriously.
Like, seriously.
Birthday present.
It really was.
It was like,
And I
it's
planned
just
that.
meant to be. It was just meant to be for me to be working with Lori on this amazing cause. So,
Yeah.
so happy that she could tell her story.
Yeah.
Oh my! And the story again, right out of somebody's nightmares. And I guess one thing I would, and you've obviously taken this pain, you've taken what has gone on, and you've used it for something so positive, so beneficial, so many other people that you can help with this. And just again, that's ripple effects of touching other people's lives. Like whoever hears about it or can join up or can get the help from you that you guys offer, their whole lives can be changed. One thing I wanted to ask you, and maybe you could tell the people this, and it's something that you see sometimes: trauma, pain, abuse, neglect, all these things can turn you into a very dark human, can turn you into a very bad person, just like you had said about when I read about it, your abuser, that person, they had
Yeah.
serious problems. And so you either get the people that do that, and most people, they just kind of quietly live with it. Maybe
Mhm.
you'll never know.
Yeah.
And then you also get people that take this and turn it into something that can help people. It's
Yeah.
like a defining moment that launches them into doing great things to help
Mhm.
so many people.
Yeah.
So if you could just talk about that, I would just be curious
Yeah.
your thoughts on how this affects people, and maybe why, and those different ways that
Yeah.
abuse and trauma will have, impacts in someone's life.
Absolutely. Well, and I think there's several layers of that, and one layer is that there is a cultural shift that's been taking place for, I would say, probably the last 25 to 30 years. And we live in a culture now where people are more inclined, more willing, and more able to talk about things that were once seen as like something that just happens behind closed doors. That's our business. We don't talk about it. And there is certainly a really strong presence of that, and that is where victim shame, victim blame, gaslighting, all of those kinds of things lives, and it does create a lot of pain. It creates a lot of pain because when there's trauma, it doesn't just happen to the person that is directly impacted. It happens to friends and families and children of and spouses of and all of those things. So it's not just ours and ours alone. It is unfortunately like one drop of poison can ruin the whole barrel of water. But another layer of that is that the average age right now for a woman to share her story is 52. And that is a really long time for each person, specifically a woman, to carry her own story and something that has happened to her. Not She didn't sign up for it. It wasn't her fault, none of those things. And she carries that for fear that if I say anything, is that going to hurt somebody? Am I going to ruffle the family? Am I going to cause more harm? Am I going to become the bad guy? I know I've certainly become that in my own family system. And that has been really painful, and a whole other layer of abandonment and rejection by the people that are supposed to protect you and love you. And then the really unfortunate statistic is that there is not an actual number for the average age of a man sharing his story. We do not live in a culture that is safe and conducive for men to tell their own personal stories. We have so courageously seen more and more men coming to the front of the line and raising their hands and saying, this also happened to me, when specifically in the last few years around Boy Scouts, around the clergy and things like that. And so there has been a shift, and I call it like the communication era. We're in an era of people who are more willing to communicate and to stand together. And we got to see, I at least growing up, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I so beautifully got to watch things, for instance, like breast cancer or the LGBT movement, that people who identified or had those experiences were able to stand alone in their own story and come together and create community and unite their voices so that it was ultimately a louder and stronger voice in unity. And that's exactly what we want to do for child abuse and neglect. So it's been pretty remarkable to be a part of that. But the like you were talking about is this layer of where is the V in the road, where one person goes to become an offender and another person goes to become a rescuer or a hero or a united loving voice. And we don't have enough research, we don't have enough understanding of what actually takes place that would cause one to become resilient while the other would become a harmer. We do know that 99% of specifically sex offenders were once sexually abused. That's a really unfortunate number, and that is very, very preventable, specifically if we created a safer place for children to talk about their experiences and become more open and able to say, I need help or I need protection. And if we noticed when our children shift in their behaviors or did something to keep them safe, ideally either as soon as we find out or even ideally really before. I think we might see a different statistic in terms of that.
Yeah, that the idea that like 99% of people that do
Mhm.
that end up like, of the people that do it, that's the right way to say it. So most people don't end up becoming abusers, thank God.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right.
thank God, but of the people that do go down this darker path and kind of
Mhm.
repeat the cycle, repeat the trauma, and enact it on someone else, they've almost always had it done to them, and so you
Absolutely.
yeah, you can just tell how that might affect and so many people go not talking about it, where maybe if they had talked about it earlier, I know you're an advocate for that, and, like, if they had brought this subject up to somebody and dealt with it, it might not have manifested in
Right.
this way.
Right.
Um, yeah, I mean, and there's so we could go down so many interesting roads with this, but
Really.
really it's
Mhm.
about getting to the light, digging in the
Yep.
ground, digging in the dirt, trying to
Yep.
figure out all those things could be helpful, but it's
Yeah.
almost better to turn to the light, to turn to
Absolutely.
awareness, to turn to conversations. What is there anything you would tell somebody maybe who has been silent, who hasn't spoke out about something like this? Like, what's maybe the first step? Because I'm sure it's very hard for them to do.
Yeah, and I would say the very first step is that you don't have to share your story. Like, there's
Mm,
no requirement for you to share your story.
mhm,
The requirement instead is that, knowing that this is not acceptable and you're not at fault, and that it's not necessarily what happens, it's what we do with what happens that can create the ultimate change. And so even at EntCan, there is 0 ask. There is a space too, but 0 ask for somebody to share their story. And really it's like, just join me. I've really honestly never met a single human that's like, I'm not really for ending child abuse. Like, I've never had anybody that's like, yeah, that's not really my jam. Instead, every single person I've ever met is like, duh, it's an easy yes. There's no like ethical difficulties that come with it. There's no religious difficulties that come with it. Like, none of it. It's totally 100 is 100% supported. And so really all we're asking is like, join us. If you want to raise your hand and say me too, or I am a survivor as well, or here's my story, you are welcome to do that. But it's your journey, it's your voice, it's your story. There's a space, there's an anonymous space, there's an open space, there's not, or you're just among people that get it. And so, like, all are welcome at all stages of that process. So
that's so great, and it
yeah.
it it is so great to have that there's a community that welcomes you, that's not gonna force anything on you, that's not gonna judge you, that's not gonna say, "Well, you have to go do this, and now you because it's like people sometimes they're not ready for that, they don't want that kind of pressure. It's like, "Hey, we're just here to support you, we have a mission, we have a cause, this is the goal we're going. Join us at whatever level you can join us at."
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where it gets exciting, because there's so much hope and possibility. Like, the ability to heal is profound.
Mm.
Ability to prevent is so possible. Those two things combined, like, that's like a cupcake with chocolate on top. And that just sounds really, really cool to me. I mean, I like cupcakes.
It's the
So,
perfect metaphor,
yeah,
right?
right? I was like, you can't go wrong. You just can't go wrong with that. So, I mean, when you combine healing with what's possible, it's like, all right, let's do this. Game on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and kinda like what you said, I think universally 100% of humans are going to agree that sexual abuse and neglect are 100% not okay.
Mhm.
I think when you and this would be interesting, when you talk about maybe discipline and also something that goes on less obvious, when somebody's putting bruises on somebody, they go, "Oh, you've crossed the line." But a lot of times you'll see parents verbally abusing or even just kinda undercutting, kinda taking away the self-esteem, doing things that are like, you might not get someone to say something to you about it, but it just strikes you as a chord wrong when you hear it. So what about those more, where somebody is not doing it out of love, they're not disciplining their children out of love, but out of their own anger or, the things that maybe go under the radar. Anything
Yeah.
you can add for that?
Yeah. So, and that is such a relatable question. And thank you for asking it, because I think one of the biggest pieces as a mom, you know, parenting is by far the hardest job I've ever done in my entire life. And I don't get paid for it. So, I mean, like, it is tough. And I think we've all seen and we've all either been or been close to those moments where I'm not my proudest. I'm not proud of that moment where I was like, what, to my 3-year-old. After my 3-year-old, she was so cute. She said to me, Mom, 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 Mom. And on like the 15th mom, I was like, what? And she was like, if you would have responded to me in the first 2 or 3 times, you wouldn't be so angry right now. I was like, oh my
She's
God.
she's parenting up. I talk a lot about
Holy
managing up,
moly.
parenting.
Seriously, parenting up. That is a great, great, great statement. But yeah, I was like, that's a therapist's daughter right there, through and through. And she's 13 now, and to this day, she still parents up. That is for sure. But it's an example of, and that's one of my flaws, right? I am a really, really good mom, and yet I have had moments of not being. And I think the hardest and scariest part as a parent is failing our children and causing harm to them. And I would imagine that anybody that has children can come, we have like this camaraderie around that. And there's shame and guilt and worry. And I say to everybody that I've ever met that has children, you have 100% failure rate, because everything is going to be your fault. Always. If it's not your fault, then whose fault can it be? Right. So, like,
Mhm.
I tell my children all the time, do you want therapy or college? Like, let's talk about this. And we get all about that because, like, it's a reality, right? But but psychological abuse it bruises the soul, and it's
Mm,
real. And I know that I've said things to my children in my most hurt moments or my most down times that I am not proud of. And if at any point in my life that I think about that, and I remember a moment where I've made a mistake as a mom, I go to my children. I have so often, and I say to them, there was a time, and you might remember it or you might not remember it, but this was kind of the scenario, and this is what I had, implied or whatever. Or I want to just apologize to you, or I want to just let you know that how I acted in that moment was wrong. I see
mm,
it, and I'm going to write it. It's like making an amends.
yeah.
And so I think the hardest part about all of child abuse, when we look at the whole big pot of it, is that it's so relatable for
Mm,
every parent, that we can all say, yeah, I've had that moment where I've spanked my child, or some parents have said, I've hit too hard, or I said the worst things. I was on an
mhm,
airplane yesterday with a mom who was so angry, and I couldn't hear what she said, but I know what she said to her
mhm.
little guy, who was
The
probably
tone.
6 or 7. Yeah, I could see her face. And then I saw his face, and I thought, oh, that little guy is holding something real heavy from whatever she just said. And I'm positive that mom, like, she 20 minutes later had to go into the airplane bathroom with a breast pump, which meant to me, like, the woman has layers, right? Like, there's some layers here, traveling, all of it. She had another kid that was crying. Like, that was not, I mean, that doesn't make her a bad mom. It means in
Mhm,
that moment, that was maybe not her finest moment. And if at any point in the next 30, 40 years, she can remember that moment and go to that little guy and say, hey, buddy, remember that one time on the plane? He might not even remember the words. He might not
mhm.
remember the scenario, but just the fact that our ability to own
Yeah.
our errors, that goes so far. And I don't care how old I am, if my mom and dad just came to me right now and said, we are so sorry for everything you
Mhm.
went through, or we love you and we're proud of you, or any of those things, I don't care how old you are, those words matter. And
Yeah.
so that's what I try and say to parents around the psychological abuse or the discipline conversation, because we all relate to it. Every parent gets it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just like what you said, that's kind of cool and consistent is that you're accepting, right? So
Yeah.
you've got parents that your expectation is also positive. Hey, I know it might just be that one time. It might just be a bad day. It might be a woman on an airplane alone with two kids to feed. She's in pain or something, and she's got to go take care of, a breast pump. And just there's so much going on. It's so easy for you to lose your temper, to lose your cool, and you would
Oh,
have preferred to do it differently. So it's just so cool that you're accepting and open to those things. And I
yeah.
even think, even the conversation around discipline, we have to have more about that, because you seem to have people in camps of you should never hit your kids. And then people are like, I used to get whoopings and that made me a better kid. And
Yeah.
there's like that kind of that, and you can see arguments for both sides. What
Mhm.
I've told people, because I've had conversations about things that maybe they've shown as bad examples for their kids, or maybe they didn't show up as their best self, or different things about discipline. I was like, the thing that I believe is that if your kids deep down know that you love them and care about them, that covers a multitude of sins, like a multitude of bad actions. If they know as a whole, oh, that's out of character for them. They do love and they do care about me. And it's the same thing with spanking. Like if you're spank, this is my opinion. Maybe I'm gonna find out I am an offender over here. I don't have any kids, so I haven't done it. So maybe you could change my mind. But like if you're disciplining out of love, where it's not my anger coming out of my hands or of something, but it's like I can't debate with a 4-year-old about why you can't touch the fire, or about why what you're doing is dangerous, and maybe somebody uses a spanking, but it's not. It's like it's completely in love, in the sense of
Yeah.
like, you need to stop immediately, but I care about you. I'm not doing it because I'm angry with you. It's like this activity needs to stop. I would love to hear your thoughts. Maybe you think totally different. You could change my mind, but I would love to hear it.
No, no. I mean, first of all, I am just one person with one opinion, and well, really, I have a lot of opinions because I think for me, one of my biggest lessons in life is understanding that nearly everything is spectrum, right? So there is a whole spectrum, and I am not one to say, well, your way is right and my way is wrong, or my way is right and your way is wrong. It's really like you do what works for you. And I think what you just described was beautiful, specifically in that when you put that element of love and compassion. And are you getting a lot of feedback?
I'm getting a little bit of
Yeah,
feedback.
me
Maybe
too.
it's me. I'm creating my own technical. Let's see if I mute
Okay.
it, if that'll change things.
Oh,
I'll try it.
yeah. There, there we go. Let's give that a shot. Okay. Yeah, I think that worked. So yeah, I mean, I think again, I have met a lot of parents who have said, I hit too hard, or I believe in spanking, or I don't believe in spanking, or time out, or putting you in your room, or whatever it is. And there have certainly, even in my own parenting, I'm like, yeah, I would never do that again. Like when I was a new mom or 15 years ago, the things that I didn't know that I know now, it informs me. It informs me as a human. And I hope that I'm ever growing. Like, I don't want to be stagnant. And my coach says, when you rest, you rust, like as long as I'm growing and learning and figuring out what works for me and feeling okay. And if there's ever a moment where I don't feel okay, to own that and write it. If I own it and I do the right thing by it, but simply by correcting it or acknowledging it or changing it immediately, both of those are instances where I'm like, okay, I'm good. And it's not my job to judge or to tell anybody else what they need to be doing, except what I do know, and it's one of my favorite quotes that Brant Steele and or Henry Kemp, I can't recall exactly which one said it, but it was that abusive children love abusive parents love their children very much, but not very well. And it's our job to help them do that better. And I've never met a parent who's like pregnant, I can't wait to beat this kid. I've never met a kindergarten who's like, I can't wait to grow up to be a sex offender. Or I mean, never, like neither of those things have I ever once heard out of another human's mouth. And I've heard some really interesting things because I don't think that as people we're born to cause harm. Our intent is to be loved. And that's it. Every human ever that existed, their number one need is to matter and to be loved and nurtured. And if we can do that for them, we can meet all of the other requirements to help them grow and thrive. And ultimately, if we can do that for our kids, our community members, the lady in the grocery store or the lady on the airplane, now we've got change. Now we can be change makers.
That's what I'm talking about. And that might be a good point too that we can leave on is leading the movement. I was doing a big thing talking about it while we were getting the technical going because I totally believe that it takes ambassadors. It takes people to say, I'm going to be a leader in this. And that's okay if you don't want to be that person, but then follow that person. Find that person who is leading a movement, who is leading change, and partner up with them. That's what was going on with Candace. I was like, what she's doing is impactful. You and I need to connect. There she is. She snuck in here. There she is.
Yes.
Candace was leading a movement. I didn't even know about this with NCAN and really taking that on, which is so cool. It was already getting the word out, writing a book, having a podcast, being this positive force for good. So just even talking about how people can become that. I would love to hear your thoughts because you have both become it. So anything on that could inspire. We want to inspire people to be more leaders and for them to join and lead the movement.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, when I started my book journey and then I morphed into the podcast, just knowing that what I was doing, like if I can help one person, and you sometimes never know who you're impacting, right? So the book was one thing. And then the podcast to give a safe place. So my podcast, which is leading the movement for that change, giving anyone who's had trauma, on all types of taboo topics. Nobody likes to talk about death. Nobody likes to talk about cancer, domestic violence, sexual assault, abuse, neglect, like topics that are just, taboo, uncomfortable, makes you like, cringe. But we have to talk about those things because, you're born, you go through this journey of life and then you're gone. And what's the legacy you want to leave behind? And that's for me, like, I realized like, not only did I want to be an advocate for myself, but for others. And then when I found a friend of mine, Kathy, who's in Columbus, Ohio, she wrote a book and then she was doing a walk in Columbus and I'm seeing all this, and I have the fear of missing out, FOMO for real, hashtag. And I was like seeing her do these walks about ending child abuse and having all these hashtags. And I'm like, I want to do that too. Like I should take on one more thing, right? I'm a podcast host, an author, motivational speaker. I work in IT. Like, let me just add NCAN to the list. And so I partnered with Lori and to just find a national organization that fits with my personal mission. It divine design is what I keep calling it. And Lori has been like hearing her talk about the whole parenting. Wait till your kids become adults. That's a whole different layer of they become parents and now you're a grandparent. And I guarantee you're a better grandparent than you were a parent ever. And I'm just saying, like, I put humor in things because I find that positivity, that light, that humor just makes life a little bit lighter. To live with some of the darkness that we live with. So Brandy, thanks for having us today. This was so amazing. Much. Let's show our books, Lori.
Show those books. We got Unspoken. I will put them in the comments. I will tag both of you so that they have them because we have to get Lori's book now. I have to add it to the collection. And talk about, because people heard this at the beginning. I talked about it for a minute. You talked about it. Tell us all about the walk in a little bit here. Let's hear that walk talk.
So the National Foundation End Child Abuse and Neglect, part of our effort is changing the conversation. And by changing the conversation, we're building community and building, enhancing awareness, right? And focusing on advocacy. And so we have walks all over the country. We have a walk in Colorado, one in Dallas, one in North Carolina, one in Milwaukee, and one in Ohio. And the Milwaukee walk is on September 17th at 9 a.m. And it's at the Lake Vista Park at Oak Creek. And it's just fun. It's an opportunity for us to come together and to have fun around a difficult topic, but really creating a lot of understanding around hope and possibility. So we'll have music, we've got balloons, we've got bubbles, we've got art things, we've got face painting, all sorts of fun things. And it's like the venue and the view of what I see, I look at it, I'm like, there's the ocean, but it's really just Lake Michigan.
They're like, Candace, what is that? I'm like, that's Lake Michigan. They're like, it looks like an ocean.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's Lake Michigan.
You can't see the other side.
So
that's
beautiful.
an ocean.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. The view. We went to go check out the venue. It's just gorgeous. And again, it's a 1 mile walk, so it's very family friendly.
Easy.
Kid oriented. There's a park. It's a beautiful venue. So I really hope whoever's listening, if you listen to this later, I know we're live right now, but come and join us. Like, this walk is the first of many, is what I'd like to say. It's my first year planning. I mean, we're still looking for sponsors. We're having a together pavilion where nonprofits can come in and walk or partner with us.
And really not even just nonprofits, like anybody,
local
a massage therapist, a yoga
wellness,
teacher, right? Like anybody that is all about healing the human.
We're in.
They're the people we want.
They're leading the movement with us. That's what we need to do.
We just want you to come and tell everybody that does come about you. So it's a free opportunity.
And we're gonna have to. I think we're gonna have a call for action for Forever Media to come out and just maybe have some drones and take some video.
The call to action. I love it. Well, and there might be. I mean, we got to talk after this, Lord. We won't do this now, but there could be some really cool opportunities because we are passionate about not-for-profits leading the movement, and so we've partnered with a bunch of them in Milwaukee, in the city, to come out to our Lead the Movement. Candace is going to be there front row. She's leading it from the stage, and so. Not only that, but you're going to get a chance, Candace, to talk with all of these different NPOs and see where there's alignment, because maybe there isn't a direct connection between a technology not-for-profit, say that one of them that might be there, but you've got a lot of caring people that could say, ooh, that's a cause that I also want to champion. We need to let people know about that. I think it really touches a lot on mental health as well. If it wasn't obvious, right? Like if you have trauma and unspoken things, you need to talk to somebody about it. There's a big mental health of things holding you back potentially. And so that touches in all different areas. And so we're passionate about that. So yeah, we absolutely need to talk and figure out how we can help make this a success for you, because you're doing great work. You're doing amazing work, and we need it in more cities, just like you talked about some of the other ones like Relay for Life and American Cancer Society. Like, how can we get this all over and just talk about it? It's going to be huge. So we'll put those links. We're going to do 3 links. We're going to give the link for people to go and sign up for the walk and potentially sponsor or donate, right? Those will all be one link. And then we've got to get both of your books, because again, I've only read Candace's, and I was blown away by the just the truth that she expressed and the honesty in it. And so I have to now read your book, Lori. So we'll put that in there for people. And then what else? What else can we have? Last cap it off. I'm going to kick it back to you for the last moment, and then I'll close off. But the last thing you want to say to everybody.
Earlier today, we were driving around, dropping off flyers and hanging them up. Every single place we went to said yes. And that right there speaks to the community by which Milwaukee represents. I mean, I was blown away by the number of people who are yesing. And as we were driving, Candace said, I started this hashtag, and it was like, me too, you too, we, or wait,
I got it. I can, you can, we can, and can.
That's it. Mic drop.
We're letting Candace on the marketing team over there.
Right?
That's what I'm talking about.
You know what's so funny? When I started emailing people, I'm like, what's catchy? And then I'm like, I can, you can, we can, and can. Yes. And that's it. And now anybody who's signed up for the walk here in Milwaukee has been using that. Some of my team members and the volunteers, it's amazing. So yeah, I'm all for, let's just spread the love and positivity on this event. So please come and check us out. We can't wait to see you.
Yeah. Come have fun with us.
Come have fun.
This is awesome. All right. So we'll do I'll do the final closeout, and then we got to talk right after. I'm calling you.
Okay, we'll be here. We'll wait for you.
All right, everybody. That was awesome. I loved having the opportunity to bring them to you so you could hear that message. And there's so many more things we could have went into. It's clearly not enough time for how impactful and interesting and all the amazing things that's going on with NCAN. We want to keep putting that out there and give you opportunities to join in, to lead the movement. One of the we'll put this comment on there because it's perfect. One of the things for leading the movement that you should have is go get your tickets. I want you to meet Candace. Hey, maybe I'll talk to Lori and say, Lori, you got to come back here. You got to come back on August 25th. You're liking Milwaukee. Come check it out, because what we're doing, I think, is going to be very impactful for a lot of not-for-profits, for the city of Milwaukee, and bringing more awareness. This is exactly what we want for all of our non-for-profits, to get access to businesses, to get access to people, to speak their message, to share the truth about what's going on, and find people to lead the movement with them. And that's what we want to do. So we'll see you there on August 25th. And also be there on September 17th with Candace and Lori to lead the movement continues at NCAN. Thank you so much. We out. Bye.